I took the fall for my boss and lost my career. I returned home to drive a truck, and my first stop was the girl I abandoned. The room had not changed in 12 years. The twin mattress was still pushed against the north wall, covered in a quilt that smelled of dust and old detergent. On the shelves, the plastic trophies from high school track meets gathered a fine gray film. They stood in rows, markers of a time when running in circles was considered an achievement. I sat on the edge of the bed. The suit I wore was charcoal, wool, and useless. It belonged to a life that had ended 72 hours ago in a glass-walled office in Chicago. For 5 years, I had lived in spreadsheets. I managed the flow of mid-sized plastic components across 3 continents. It was a clean life. There was a column for demand and a column for supply. And if you worked hard enough, they balanced. It was a world of order. Then Simon, the department head, ignored the demand forecast. He ordered 40,000 units of raw polymer we didn't need just to trigger a volume discount tier. He saved 2% on the unit cost, but tied up $3 million in capital we needed for payroll. When the inventory glut hit the books, the company needed a name to put on the air. Simon had tenure and a golf membership with the CEO. I had a mortgage and a signature. I signed the papers. I took the severance. I drove 600 miles back to the room with the track trophies. Ian, my father, stood in the doorway. He wore a canvas work jacket that smelled of diesel and cold air. He held a clipboard against his chest like a shield. "I'm awake," I said. "Driver en route for called out," he said. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't look at the suit. He looked at the schedule. "It covers Main Street and the West End. You know the roads." "I have things to do," I said. I didn't have things to do. I had a stare-down scheduled with the ceiling fan. "You have nothing to do," he corrected. He tossed a set of keys onto the quilt. They landed with a heavy, metallic thud. "The truck is loaded. Don't ride the clutch. It's not a German sedan." I looked at the keys. The plastic fob was worn smooth by other men's thumbs. "Route 4, I said. The realization hit me slowly. A dull ache in the gut. "That includes the bakery." "Yes, it includes the bakery." He turned to leave. "It's been 5 years, Ian. She's running a business, not a militia. She won't shoot you." He walked down the hall. I stood up and took off the jacket. I folded it along the seams and laid it on the bed. I put on a gray hoodie that felt rough against my skin. In the mirror, I looked like a man who had tried to outrun his past and pulled a hamstring. The truck was an old Ford with a suspension that had given up years ago. Every pothole on Main Street sent a shockwave through the seat. I checked the manifest attached to the clipboard. Stop 6, the need. 50 pounds high-gluten flour. 3 crates unsalted butter. 1 case vanilla extract. I pulled into the loading zone. I turned the engine off, but the vibration stayed in my hands. I looked at the brick building. I remembered standing on this sidewalk 5 years ago. I remembered the way the streetlights hummed. I remembered telling Mara that this town was a cage, that I needed altitude, that I couldn't breathe here. She hadn't yelled. She had just looked at me with eyes that went flat and dead, and told me to go find my air somewhere else. I got out. The morning air was sharp. I opened the back of the truck. I grabbed the hand truck from the sidewall. I stacked the butter crates on the bottom. I balanced the flour sack on top. Efficiency. 1 trip. I wheeled the load to the door and kicked the metal plate at the bottom. The heat rushed out to meet me, heavy with yeast and browning sugar. It smelled like memory. The kitchen was a grid of stainless steel and white tile. Mara stood at the central island, her back to me. She wore a white apron over a black t-shirt. Her arms dusted white to the elbows. She was working a mound of dough, driving the heels of her hands into it with a rhythm that looked like a fight. She looked strong. The years had stripped the softness from her, leaving something lean and durable. "Delivery," I said. She stopped. She didn't turn immediately. Her shoulders rose as she took a breath, then settled. She wiped her hands on a towel tucked into her apron strings and turned around. She looked at me. There was no surprise in her face, no anger, just a cool, detached recognition, like looking at a tool she had misplaced years ago. "Put it in the walk-in," she said. Her voice was level. "3rd shelf. Don't block the fan intake. The guy last week froze the fresh yeast." "Understood," I said. I walked past her, the wheels of the hand truck humming on the tile. I kept my eyes forward, but I saw the details. A burn scar on her forearm, the way she shifted her weight to her left foot. I walked into the fridge. The fan hummed. I stacked the butter. I arranged the flour sack so the label faced out. I moved the older stock to the front. "First in, first out." I came back out. She was already kneading again. I held out the clipboard. "Sign, please." She took the board. She didn't look at my face. She scribbled her signature and handed it back. "You missed a spot," she said, nodding at the floor by the door. I looked down. A smear of mud from my boot. "I'll get a rag," I said. "Don't bother. I have to mop anyway." She threw the dough onto the counter. The sound was a loud, wet slap. The door sticks on the way out. You have to lift and pull. Right. I walked to the door. I lifted the handle and pulled. The metal groaned, a high-pitched shriek of friction. I walked out. She hadn't asked why I was back. She hadn't asked about Chicago. She treated me like a stranger who was slightly in the way. It was exactly what I deserved. The days bled into a routine. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 6 a.m. The humiliation didn't go away, but it hardened into something manageable. I was a ghost in her kitchen. I entered. I moved weight. I left. She was cold. It wasn't an act of hostility. It was a complete absence of warmth. On the third week, a tire blew out on the highway. I changed it in the rain, my knuckles scraping against the asphalt. I walked into the bakery at 6:45. Mara was pacing by the ovens. "You're late," she said. She didn't look up from her timer. "I have the morning rush in 15 minutes, and no butter for the croissants." "Flat tire," I said. I put the crate down. "Sorry. Surprised you didn't call a service," she said. She sliced the tape on the box with a paring knife. "Thought big city consultants didn't do manual labor." The words were sharp. "Logistics require adaptability," I said. I changed it myself. "Congratulations. Do you want a medal?" I didn't answer. I handed her the vanilla. I watched her work. I couldn't help it. My mind was built to see systems, and her system was flawed. The back door she complained about was misaligned by 3 millimeters. Every time she used it for a trash run, she had to throw her shoulder into it. It cost her energy. It cost her time. The dry storage shelves were arranged by category, not weight. She kept the 50-pound sugar bags on the top shelf. I watched her drag a stepladder over, climb up, and wrestle the bag down. It was inefficient. It was dangerous. I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell her how to fix the flow. But I had lost the right to speak to her about her life 5 years ago. So I fixed it in silence. On a Wednesday, while she was arguing with a vendor on the phone in the front, I brought a toolkit from the truck. I adjusted the strike plate on the back door. I oiled the hinges. On Friday, I arrived 30 minutes early. I went into the dry storage. I stripped the shelves. I moved the sugar and flour to waist height, the heavy liquids to the bottom, and the light paper goods to the top. When she came in to sign the clipboard, she paused. She looked at the door. She opened it. It swung silent and smooth on the hinges. She looked at the shelf. She looked at me. Her eyes narrowed, searching for a reason to be annoyed. "Sign here," I said, looking at the wall. She signed. "The invoice is light," she said. "What?" "The invoice. You didn't charge for the labor." "It's part of the service," I said. "Right," she said. "Service." She turned back to her work, but the tension in her shoulders was gone. November brought the rain. It was a cold, relentless downpour that turned a loading dock into a slick sheet of oil and water. I was unloading pumpkins. 50 pounds of puree in wet cardboard. My boot hit the metal ramp and slid. I went down hard on one knee, jarring the bone, but I kept the box level. I limped into the kitchen. I was soaked. Water dripped from the hem of my hoodie onto the tile. Mara was icing cupcakes. She looked up. She saw the limp. She saw the water pooling around my boots. I put the box down. I reached for the clipboard, but my hand shook from the cold shock. "Invoice," I said. Mara stared at my hand. "Leave it," she said. "I need the signature." "Ian, leave it." She wiped her hands on her apron. She walked to the espresso machine. The steam hissed, a loud, violent sound in the quiet room. She came back with a paper cup. It was black coffee, dark and hot. She slid it across the stainless steel table. "It's on the house," she said. "Don't drip on the floor." I stared at the cup. It was a small thing, but it felt heavy. I picked it up. The heat seeped into my fingers. "Thank you," I said. "You're limping." I slipped. "It's fine. Sit down," she said. She pointed to a metal stool. Drink it before you drop. I sat. I drank. The coffee tasted bitter and clean. She went back to the cupcakes. Her movements were fluid, practiced. The pumpkin is for the pies, she said. She didn't look at me. I'm trying a maple bourbon glaze. Sounds complicated, I said. 2 strong flavors. She paused. She looked at me over her shoulder. It's called depth, Ian. Not everything has to be simple. Simple works, I said. Simple is boring, she countered. But there was no bite in it. We sat in silence. The rain hammered the roof. For a few minutes, the history between us didn't feel like a wall. It felt like a bridge we were both too tired to burn. 2 weeks later, the past drove a silver BMW into the lot. I was stacking crates. The car pulled up. The window rolled down. It was Simon. He looked healthy. He looked rich. Ian, he called out. He smiled. Ian Miller, is that you? I stood holding a crate of eggs. I felt the blood drain from my face. Simon, I said. He got out of the car. He looked at the Miller Logistics logo on the truck. He looked at my work boots. Well, Simon laughed. This is rustic. Taking a break from the data mines. Helping family, I said. Good for you, Simon said. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. Hard to find a spot after the exit, I imagine. People talk. That order error was a resume killer. Shame you cracked under the pressure. He was rewriting the story to my face. He was enjoying it. I stood there. I took it. I looked at the ground. If you need a reference for a warehouse job, let me know, Simon said. I'm heading to the vineyard. Take care, Ian. He drove off. I stood there, gripping the eggs. I felt hollow. He fired you. I turned. Mara stood in the open back door. She was leaning against the frame, arms crossed. I resigned, I said. Bullshit, Mara said. She walked down the ramp. She ignored the cold. He said, order error. You don't make errors. You organize your spices by alphabet and region. She stopped in front of me. She looked angry. You took the fall for him. I looked at the asphalt. It was complicated. The department needed stability. Stop, she said. Stop talking like a press release. She stepped closer. She poked my chest with a floury finger. You let that man destroy your career because you were too loyal to say no. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice, she said. Her voice dropped. You chose to leave me because you wanted to be important, and then you let them treat you like a disposable part. I looked at her. Her eyes were clear. She wasn't looking at me with hate anymore. She was looking at me with understanding. She realized I wasn't the arrogant man who left her. I was just a man who had made a mistake. I'm an idiot, I said. Yes, Mara said. You are. She reached out. She took the crate of eggs from my hands. Carry the flour, she said, and come inside. I save you a bear claw. It's ugly, so I can't sell it. The days got longer. The silence got easier. I stayed longer after deliveries. I checked her inventory levels. I told her when vanilla prices were spiking, so she could buy early. Buy 3 cases now. I told her. The cyclone season in Madagascar is going to triple the spot price next month. She looked at me. Okay, do it. I became her analyst. Unpaid. Unofficial. It was a Tuesday in January. The sky was clear and cold. I dropped off the last crate. I signed the clipboard. I'm done with the route at noon, I said. I looked at the mixer, not her face. Do you need help with the year-end inventory? I know you hate the spreadsheets. Mara wiped the counter. She paused. I do hate the spreadsheets, she said. I can set up a macro. It'll automate the reordering. She looked at me. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I'm good on inventory today, she said. My stomach dropped. I nodded. Okay, see you Friday. But she added quickly. My car is in the shop. Radiator. I stopped. I could use a ride home, she said, if that fits your logistics. I looked at her. It was a small thing, but it was everything. It's on the route, I said. Efficient. Don't push it, she said. A smile touched the corner of her mouth. We sat in the van. The heater rattled. The cab smelled of diesel and the cinnamon that clung to her clothes. I drove. She looked out the window at the town we grew up in. I'm sorry, I said, for leaving. She didn't look at me. She traced a line in the condensation on the glass. I know, she said. You thought you were bigger than this place. I was wrong. This place is real. It is, she said. She turned to look at me. I'm not going to make it easy for you, Ian. You have to earn it back. I know, I said. I have a checklist. She laughed. It was a warm sound in the cold cab. Of course you do. I turned onto her street. I pulled up to her house. It was the same house. The same porch light. See you Friday? I asked. She opened the door. She looked back. Wednesday, she said. I'm running low on sugar. And maybe bring the spreadsheets. Wednesday, I said. She got out. I watched her walk to the door. I didn't drive away immediately. I sat there, listening to the engine idle. I checked my watch. I was behind schedule. I put the van in gear. For the first time in 5 years, the road didn't look like a way out. It looked like a way home.